What we're going to do today is run some rounds through the 357 carbine just to show what a beast, absolute beast, a little carbine chambered in 357 Magnum can be. Some of the recent tests I've done with the 357 out of a snub nose, it might have come across that I was minimizing or insulting the 357, and excuse me, that couldn't be further from the truth. I love the silly cartridge. It's just a fact of life that it loses a higher percentage of its velocity than a lot of calibers do when you put it through a tiny little gun. So today we're going back to one of my favorite guns, a little 16-inch 357 carbine. And guys, it is stinking cold out here. So what I'll probably do is I'll run some loads that I haven't chronographed on camera before, and I may use the numbers from previous chronograph sessions from other ones, because it's been below freezing for 5 days here, and that's just not normal for Arkansas. So here we go. Let me get set up and we'll get things rolling. And when I say it's been cold out, it has been cold out. Freakishly cold for the quote-unquote deep south. The hard freeze and storm came through on Sunday. Today is Saturday, and the pond is still completely frozen over. Let's see if a rock will, small rock. Yeah. Okay. How about a bigger rock? Okay. But a much bigger rock. Okay. That's been 6 days, y'all. That's not supposed to happen in the south. Testing generic 38 special non-plus P wad cutters. It's actually a military overrun that I picked some up a few years ago. Winchester brass. They probably use it for MP qualifications or something. So, get some of them loaded up, and we'll see what they do out of the rifle. .836. .829. .828. Testing the standard pressure Federal 125 grain Nyclad hollow point from the 16-inch carbine. .1211, 1188, 1185. Testing the Federal Plus P 129 grain Hydra shot, just a 38 Plus P out of the 16-inch carbine. My fingers don't want to work, it's so cold out here. .1155, 1052, 1062. Testing the Winchester standard pressure 38 special. If I can get it here. 130 grain full metal jacket. It's an FMJ flat point. Standard pressure 38 special. From the 16-inch carbine. $10.24, $9.80, $9.60. Testing the Federal 357 Magnum 158 grain Hydroshock from the 16-inch carbine. $17.41, $17.27, $17.41 again. Testing the Remington 125 grain 357 jacketed soft point. It's a Remington UMC load. From the 16-inch carbine. $21.50, $21.21, $21.28. Testing the Remington UMC 125 grain jacketed hollow point. From the 16-inch carbine. $20.33, $20.47, $20.48. Testing a hand load. It's a 357 Magnum Hornady 158 grain XTP. I'm covering up the powder weight. Going to be distributing load data. But it's 158 grain Hornady XTP. Again from the 16-inch carbine. $15.67, $15.44, $15.76. Testing a hand load. This is a Hornady 125 grain XTP. I'm covering up the load data there. That's 125 XTP 357 Magnum from the 16-inch carbine. $20.86, $20.10, $20.22. Okay, so here we have the numbers of the different loads through the 16-inch carbine. And just again to show, in the last couple of videos, it might have come across like I was being disrespectful to the 357, and absolutely not. It's just, it does tons better with a longer barrel. So starting off with even standard pressure 38 specials, not even plus Bs. You're crowding 400 foot-pounds of energy with one of them there. And shooting a 38 special out of a carbine-sized gun is a pussycat. It's basically as much power as a lot of Magnum loads out of the snub nose. Hotter than most hot 9mm loads, and it shoots literally about like a 22. Could be handled by pretty much anybody. This one here may have been a strange one to include, that 130 grain full metal jacket flat point. You would think, what's that really good for? I came across that one years and years ago. I've had this rifle, Lord, 25, 30 years. And that one manages to stay subsonic out of the 16-inch carbine. So with the suppressor on it, it makes a really neat little nuisance animal gun. The 1+ P load, this yellow line here, notice it has less energy than the standard pressure load in the NICLAD, so that kind of goes back to, you got to test and see what your gun likes and what it does with different loads, because you never know. Getting into the Magnums, there you go. A 357 Magnum from a carbine is a beast of a cartridge. For comparison, I put up some old original ballistics numbers from rifle calibers when they first came out. The original 30-30 was a 160 grain bullet at 1960 feet per second, 1,385 foot-pounds of energy. Well, that's basically mimicked with a little 16-inch 357 lever action in the quote-unquote handgun caliber 357 Magnum. And those numbers for the original 30-30, that's out of a 24-inch barrel, so a much heavier, more unwieldy gun. The original 56 Spencer, you're talking 1,125 foot-pounds. Even the original 45-70, depending on which of the two primary original loads, you're running high 12s to low 16s as far as power. And the 45-70 has killed pretty much everything in North America. Modern 45-70s are a whole lot more powerful than that, but I'm going back to the origins just to give some kind of baseline of the power levels involved in this little 357 carbine. I've mentioned before, but it's literally smaller than my 22 long rifle Ruger 1022. And yet it's putting out the power of the original 45-70, or give or take, just almost the power of the original 45-70 with its original loadings. So that's something to consider. We Americans tend to be power mad with our rifles, especially our hunting rifles. We tend to think we need more than we do. But just look at the numbers. I won't spend a lot of time going through all of them, but this one Remington, that HTP load, that's a weird load. It always hangs kind of in the middle. It does okay out of a pistol, but it doesn't gain much out of the carbine. 760 foot-pounds, that's kind of light for the 357 out of a carbine-sized gun. This Hornady XTP load, that's not a factory load. That's just using the Hornady bullet in some of my hand loads. That's intentionally downloaded a little bit. You can see it's substantially less powerful than most of the Magnum loads. It's just that that gun likes that load. So I've kind of standardized it, and the 125 XTP hitting over 2,000 feet per second. And that's well within book limits. Those are not overloaded by any means. Those are within standard loading book parameters. But we're breaking 2,000 feet per second on numerous of these loads. What, a third of them probably break 2,000 feet per second, if not more. Again, point being, in my part of North America, there is nothing that this gun with pretty much any of these loads can't take. I don't have grizzly bears here, nothing bigger than a black bear, and I'm not on the open plains where I'm shooting 400 and 500 yards for hunting purposes. So the 357 carbine can ballistically do anything I need done. If somebody would come out with a semi-auto carbine, especially a box-fed semi-auto carbine in 357 Magnum, that could literally serve every need I have for a long gun, whether I'm talking hunting or self-defense. It's got plenty of power. The only problem with the current offerings are the lack of semi-auto rate of fire and the slow reloading. But if someone were to come out with a gun along the lines of an M1 carbine in size that used a boxed detachable magazine, I wouldn't have any need for any other rifle. I'd own other rifles just because, hey, I'm American and I can, but I wouldn't have any functional need for more than that. And that should be doable. I doubt anyone will do it because there's no demand for it yet, or not enough demand to make it something that anybody's putting out yet. But it's completely doable. Ruger had their 9944, which was a box-fed semi-auto in 44 Magnum, so that could be done in a 357 Magnum as well. Numerous handguns have been made in 357 in box-fed semi-auto form, so it's doable. There's just not enough perceived demand, but wanted to point out the 357 Magnum cartridge is stunning. You start looking at these power levels, that's a lot more energy, at least most of them are, than a 44 Magnum handgun in a gun that's compact, light, and surprisingly easy to shoot. So there we go. Just wanted to kind of give a summary there and let y'all know I don't hate the 357. Didn't mean to sound like I was bashing it or belittling it. It's one of my favorite calibers. I hand load it, have for, Lord, 30 plus years. Cast my own bullets for it. It's a great, great cartridge. So I hope nobody took from those other videos that I was disrespecting it in some way. So appreciate it.